Hi, I'm Danielle Carron, and in this podcast, I'm going to share with you knowledge and tools that I believe should be accessible to everyone. They're fundamental and essential to being human. Embody Your Power is an integrative model that bridges science, spirituality, and ancient wisdom to give you the resources needed to live your fullest potential. As a psychotherapist for over 16 years and now as a coach, I help people know, reclaim, and embody their power on all levels. It's my mission to help you connect to your unshakable resilience, to know true power and freedom, to be sovereign and to remember your divine nature. If you're wanting to learn tools to release layers of conditioning, heal from trauma, feel at home in your body, have inner peace, expand your capacity for joy, connect spiritually, and take a journey with me to embody your power, then this podcast is for you. Thank you for joining me. Together, let's raise our consciousness to help evolve humanity. Welcome to the Embody Your Power podcast. This is episode 1, where I'm going to start with a question. What power do you have that no one can take from you? Let's take a minute and think about that. I've looked closely at this as I've been helping people heal and experience great freedom and joy by embodying their power as a psychotherapist for over 16 years and now as a coach. What is power? My definition of personal power is something that is innate to you. You are powerful when you remember your true nature. Who are you? What is your true nature? You are innately worthy of love, acceptance, abundance, connection, belonging, respect, protection, safety, and being seen and heard. Let's pause right there. How do you think your life would be different if you had no doubt that you are worthy of love, acceptance, and belonging at all times? No matter what the circumstances are in life, you have the power to decide how you would like to perceive the circumstances and whether you're going to accept them or resist them. Now, acceptance doesn't mean defeat or giving up. Acceptance is being in alignment with reality. This is one of my favorite quotes from Byron Katie. She says, "Whenever you fight reality, you lose, only 100% of the time." So through acceptance, we can create change with greater power. Through acceptance, we're not losing power by feeling powerless or like a victim. This is a power that no one can take from you. It's your sovereign choice. You are not designed to feel powerless or defeated. It never feels good when someone is intentionally using power over you. It also doesn't feel good to make ourselves less than others. It's imperative for our health to embody our true power and feel a healthy sense of self, which includes our self-esteem, self-worth, and self-confidence. We give our power away when we're not embodying our truth about ourselves. For example, we may choose to sacrifice ourselves instead of speaking our truth. We could prefer to make ourselves uncomfortable than make someone else uncomfortable. We might have a hard time receiving a compliment or feeling proud about ourselves. We could struggle to feel worthy of good things or getting our needs met. We may play small or hide. We can lose power when others are using their power to make us feel less than, to hurt us, to cross our boundaries, to abandon or avoid us, to manipulate us, to create a sense of self-doubt, or degrade our own sense of self. When we're not feeling our innate power, we may try to have power over others. When we're trying to have power over someone else so that we can feel more powerful and that the other feels less powerful, we're not actually embodying true power. we're operating from insecurity, fear, and scarcity. Remember that when you see people who are powering over others, they're not coming from a place of true power, so they're trying to feel powerful at someone else's expense. Our labels for this behavior include bullies, narcissists, tyrants, and perpetrators. People may try to have power over others by trying to control or manipulate them for their benefit. Let's look at some examples. People try to have power by intentionally violating someone's boundaries. And by the way, we have all types of boundaries, including physical, sexual, sensorial, meaning all of our senses. For example, somebody can yell in my ear, and that would cross a boundary of mine. We have emotional, psychological boundaries, religious, spiritual. We have boundaries around time, space, and other people and animals that we care about. People may also try to have power over us by being mean, rude, or speaking down to us. By withholding any attempt to find common ground, resolution, or mutual respect is a way to hold power over someone. Shaming people when they don't abide by your personal rules that have not been mutually agreed upon. Being disrespectful and not seeing the other person as another powerful, sovereign, divine being. Avoiding and ignoring others is an attempt to have power over them as well. In fact, ignoring someone is one of the most harmful ways to degrade them. People abusing others are attempting to power over them. And when someone is frightened and their life or well-being is threatened, they go into survival instincts to survive. In some cases, people are able to stay present enough to socially engage with the threat and talk their way out of it. However, more commonly, we resort to our fight, flight, fawn, and freeze responses. When we elicit a fight or flight response and we're not able to defeat the threat, then we're left feeling a loss of power. We are not designed to feel defeated. Our nervous system is designed for survival and feeling able to protect ourselves. And often, if we determine fight or flight isn't going to work, we will fawn or freeze. Fawning is the act of pleasing, flattering, or reading others to do or say what we think they want in order to survive. We put our needs aside and we take care of them. Freezing can look like immobility and dissociation, which is a clever way to disconnect from our body so that we minimize the amount of pain that we're about to experience. In these examples, we may utilize the fight, flight, fawn, or freeze responses to survive the threat, but we're still left with a loss of power that can lead to trauma symptoms because the initial impulses to overcome the threat didn't get to complete in a way that was powerful and satisfactory. This impulse still wants to experience a powerful outcome as we're designed to feel that we can protect ourselves and defeat the threat. For example, someone who was abused as a child and wasn't able to complete a successful fight response to defeat the threat could later in life be someone who constantly picks fights with others to attempt to have the successful outcome. However, if this is done unconsciously, which in most cases it is, it will never feel resolved and the pattern of picking fights will continue. It can also manifest on the other extreme as someone who will avoid all conflict to the point of not standing up for themselves. Often as children, we may have an impulse to fight back or run away from an abusive parent, but we don't get to have a successful completion of those impulses because we're too small to fight back or we're too dependent to run away. This is why many children default on a freeze response, which can create issues later in life if we continue to default on a freeze response because we haven't been able to experience a successful fight or flight response. As a trauma specialist, many symptoms we experience from trauma are related to a loss of power. And upon restoring and embodying our power, we heal from the traumatic experience. We can also lose power through beliefs and messages that aren't true about ourselves. Unfortunately, most people are carrying false beliefs around. Let's take a look at how we can lose power from emotional neglect and hurt and our subconscious programs. Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about what happens to our brain in the first 7 years of life. Our brain is in a theta state, which means it's in a kind of hypnosis state, And what that means is that we are being downloaded and programmed by everyone and everything around us, with no discernment about what goes in and what stays out. Now, the significance of this is that these programs are going directly into our subconscious mind during the first 7 years of life. And by the time that we're in our 30s, we're living 95% of our lives from our subconscious programs. Now, that is very significant. And that's why when I work with people, a lot of the times we're going back to these early ages to rewrite the programs so that now they're in alignment with their truth. The subconscious mind is like our autopilot. We don't have to think, it just happens. So for example, when we learn how to drive a car, after we learn, we don't have to think about it. We can get in the car and go. And so just think about the beliefs and messages that might be operating in the background that you're not thinking about consciously, they're just happening. So that's the significance of the subconscious mind and the programs, and how we can lose power when there's beliefs and programs in our subconscious mind that are not in alignment with our authenticity and truth. As children, we generally believe that there's something wrong with us rather than there's something wrong with our parents or people in authority. For many reasons we do this. For example, if a parent is hurting a child, think of how scary it would be for that child to believe that their parents, that they're dependent on, are abusing them or treating them poorly or hurting them. Children need to preserve a sense of security that their parents and authority figures are right, and thus they make themselves wrong. Children can also feel like they have more control if they blame themselves, because then they can feel like maybe they can do something about it. The wisdom in this is to attempt to keep themselves from going into a very powerless state. We can also lose power when people say things about us that we internalize. Depending on how conscious we are at the time, it can go right into our subconscious mind. When people treat us badly and we're not in touch with our true power, we can start to believe that we are bad or deserve to be treated that way. How we interpret situations can lead to false beliefs about ourselves. For example, common beliefs that people carry around that aren't true include, I'm unlovable, I'm not worthy, I'm a failure or a disappointment, I'm stupid, I don't belong, I hurt others simply by being me, I'm a burden, I don't deserve to get my needs met. We can suffer tremendously from losing our power. What causes the most suffering is when we believe the false beliefs and messages we received from others, we internalize them, and then repeat them to ourselves. We can also suffer as a result of feeling like a victim, needing someone else to do something so that we feel better. We can give our power away by resisting reality and believing that we deserve to be treated badly. We can heal by loving ourselves and remembering the truth about ourselves. This is true power. When we love ourselves, we heal our wounds around feeling unlovable, unworthy, rejected, weak, a burden, and a failure. Despite power dynamics everywhere, we can still operate from a place of mutual power, where both people are in touch with their true innate power, and therefore they don't need to give away their power or power over anyone else. They encourage each other to embody their power. They treat each other with respect, they empathize and put themselves in each other's shoes. They work toward solutions and come to agreements together. There is a desire to collaborate. There's a respect for the divinity in each other. People who are powering over us are not using true power. This comes from also not remembering their true nature. When we truly know who we are, we don't need to power over others. We don't need to use control, criticism, or coercion. When you're connected to your true power, you already know how powerful you are. There's no need to harm others. When embodying our true power, we do have clear boundaries and assert our boundaries. Any act that isn't one of mutual power can be contributing to someone losing their power. I believe that no matter what the circumstances are or were in your life, you can always access or reclaim your power as it's an innate aspect of you. You aren't dependent on anyone else to access your power as a free-thinking adult. Thank goodness for that. That means you don't need anything from the person who hurt you for you to heal. This is empowering news. If you're in a position of needing something from someone else in order to heal, feel your power, or feel whole, then you're giving your power away to someone else. If someone is wanting to heal from abuse from someone who is now no longer living, that would be completely disempowering if we were dependent on the other for repair, for an apology, or to heal. We have everything we need to heal. As for children, they do need adults to help them access their power in a healthy way. If the adults in their lives are disempowering them, then they may find themselves going to the extremes of thinking down about themselves and having a hard time accepting a compliment, or attempting to feel powerful by wielding a false sense of power over others. They may do this by attempting to control, harm, or manipulate others. When we aren't exposed to and supported in accessing our true power, it can be hard to find on our own. We tend to repeat what's familiar or go to the other extreme. Who do you know who embodies a healthy sense of power? Someone who can be powerful and encourages others to be powerful as well. They have a desire for mutual power, and there's an understanding of who we truly are on a spiritual level. We all have situations in which we have someone or something that has more power. For example, many people work for someone else who's in a position of power and holds power over their financial income. However, this doesn't need to be a disempowering relationship. It can be mutually respectful and honoring. And we have choice. If a boss is abusive, it is our choice to leave or stay. If someone is abusing us and we've forgotten our true nature and believe that we're worthy of that abuse, then we will stay. If we are the boss and we're in a position of power, then we can choose to have a mutually powerful relationship with those around us. If it's a situation where someone is in prison and they can't leave, then they still can find their power in their mind, how they think about and perceive themselves and their life situation. Again, we reclaim our power when we remember who we truly are. If you know you are powerful, you will act accordingly and you will experience being empowered. And when you know that you are more than this body, nothing can defeat you. There are plenty of stories out there of people who embodied their power even in prison, people who accomplished great things and are incredible humanitarians, because they didn't lose touch with their true nature and didn't fear death. The people who most inspire me have this common belief and understanding that they are more than this body and that death is not the end. The power that they embody is very palpable. You can very much sense it and feel it. And the courage that exudes from them when they are in this knowing and embodying the truth about themselves is powerful and inspiring. I admire these people who dare to speak their truth and allow their unique expression of themselves to move through them freely, even if the world would disagree. I recently heard a woman tell a story about an experience she had in her biology class in high school. She describes the teacher as someone who is typically very nice. However, one day she walked into class and the seats were arranged in a circle. The teacher this day was very militant. He told them all to sit down and shut up, and anyone who moved or spoke would fail the class. And then he went to the center of the circle where there was a desk with a fish and a bowl of water. He took the fish out and placed it on the desk to flop around. Then he left the room. This woman described how intense it was and how it felt like forever that all the students were sitting quietly and no one was doing anything, until finally one girl got up and put the fish back in the water. Once the fish was put back in the water, the teacher came back into the class, and he said, "What has the world done to you? You've betrayed yourself." I was happy to find out at the end of the story that the teacher used a type of fish that can live out of water for a very long time. I think this is such a powerful example of what it looks like when we're living from fear and giving our power away. And for the girl who put the fish back in the water, what it looks like when we're embodying true power and using that to do what feels right in our hearts, to take action on our truth, to help others, even in the face of what feels scary or in the presence of someone who has power over us, like in this case, the teacher threatening to fail the students. Spiritually, I believe we are all unique expressions of the divine. You are a powerful being. Think about that for a second. You are not separate from Source, or whatever name you use for that presence, consciousness, the divine, the creator, God, the universe. This energy is infinite, loving, and creative. You came from it and are a part of it. You were born innately powerful, wise, and resilient. You came into this world with unlimited potential. Your innate power comes from remembering who you are. You're always connected to Source, and you are a unique expression of it. You are also more than this body. You exist beyond this body. When you remember that, nothing can have more power over you. I say this with confidence because I experienced myself beyond my body in a near-death experience when I was 19 and continue to experience this through meditation. Now let's look at why embodying your power is important to your health. When you're not embodying your true power, your self-esteem, self-worth, and self-confidence are going to suffer. I believe health is integrative, meaning you have many systems operating and communicating together. So when you're not embodying your true power on either side of the spectrum, your health can suffer mentally, emotionally, physically, relationally, and spiritually. Mentally, we lose power when we resist reality and we feel like a victim, when we go to war with ourselves and others, when we're driven around by our fear. One of my favorite quotes by Richard Schwartz, the creator of internal family systems, is, "Nothing has power over you unless you fear it." We also lose power when we think negative thoughts about ourselves or others, when we operate from unquestioned subconscious programs that don't serve us. We lose power when we're not mentally sovereign. When we attempt to have power and control over someone else, we are weak. Emotionally, the biggest way we lose power is when we don't know how to be present and open-hearted with our own emotional pain, because then we are being driven around by that pain that we're avoiding. We lose power emotionally when we internalize false beliefs about ourselves, when others act in a way or say things that are demoralizing, patronizing, belittling, or shaming, when we're not seen and respected for our true nature. We lose power when we feel unworthy and less than. When we can't have empathy and put ourselves in another's shoes, then we have shut down our emotional capacity and our ability to connect to our true power. Physically, you are the most powerful when you're feeling love, bliss, peace, and joy. These emotions have the highest frequency and literally make you physically stronger. Fear, regret, apathy, guilt, and shame are the emotions that will make you the weakest physically. A loss of power can lead to health issues and physical ailments. Physiologically, we lose power when we have incomplete or thwarted defensive responses, when we haven't been able to successfully complete a fight or flight response, leaving us feeling defeated, frozen, or dissociated. We also lose power when our nervous system feels out of control, meaning we feel at the mercy of the dysregulation in our nervous system. We feel most powerful when we are regulated and we know how to use our awareness to regulate our internal states. Relationships can suffer when we are either giving power away or trying to have power over others. We can also spin out our wheels and lose energy when we don't recognize that we're trying to have mutual power with someone who's not interested. Instead, they're interested in a power over or overpowered relationship. The most powerful relationships thrive with mutual power, respect, empathy, and kindness. Spiritually, we suffer and lose power when we forget our true nature, when we feel disconnected from God, Source, the divine, when we internalize beliefs and messages about being bad, a sinner, unworthy, or such things as going to hell. We lose power when others use God or religious propaganda to have power over us. Spiritually, we lose power when we forget that everyone is a unique expression of the divine. Most of my work as an integrative psychotherapist for over 16 years and now as a coach is helping people reclaim their power. The restoration of power has an incredible capacity to heal. Some of the ways I help people embody their power include: I see people as a unique expression of the divine, as innately powerful, as already whole and healthy, and I encourage them to embody their power within our relationship. I help people access their true nature and discern between the parts of them that are carrying false beliefs and messages and the parts that are trying to protect them from pain and vulnerability. I guide people to know themselves separate from all of their parts, and then how to work with those parts from what I call the core self, which is what is present when all of our parts give us space. And the parts are the parts that are being driven around by pain and fear. And so if we're not conscious of those parts, they can be jumping in the driver's seat and driving us around. So instead, we all want to experience living from our core self as much as possible. And this place is a place within us that is not afraid to be with our worst pain or our greatest fear. I help people complete incomplete defensive responses physiologically. This means incomplete fight responses, flight responses, freeze responses, so that they can all move through to completion. There's a huge restoration of power in this process. People literally feel power return to their body. I assist people in experiencing new corrective experiences versus going back and rehashing the past to update the old subconscious programs and memories. I help people feel at home in their bodies through somatic work and help them know how to regulate themselves in any situation. Lastly, I'm passionate about supporting people in connecting spiritually, to experience how powerful and divine they really are, and to know themselves beyond their body. At the end of this episode, I offer some questions to reflect upon. What power do you have that no one can take from you? What's your relationship to power? When do you feel the most powerful? Can you identify any ways that you can benefit from reclaiming your power? Lastly, how would my life be different if I was embodying my true power? Thanks for listening to this podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please consider assisting me in reaching more people by sharing it with others or writing a review. Together, let's raise our consciousness to help evolve humanity. For more information, please visit my website, daniellecarron.com. That's DANIELLECARRON.com.